The implementation of new technologies is expected to boost the development of Islamic finance by increasing accessibility to banking and other financial services in Islamic communities and democratizing access to investment opportunities. And at the same time, new technologies will increase financing opportunities and facilitate asset management for Sharia compliant businesses. Hello and welcome to Islamic Finance Weekly. I am Rahma Saeed Muhammad, and in today's episode, we'll be discussing Islamic fintechs and financial inclusion, especially in the northern parts of Nigeria. And joining me virtually today is Abdulazeez of HalalVest, founder and chief executive officer, HalalVest. Assalamu alaikum, Abdulazeez. Welcome on the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for doing this. Without further ado, let's delve right into our conversation of today, which is Islamic Fintech. So what can you tell us, or what is Islamic Fintech in brief?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I must comment what the organizers of this weekly program, what you guys are doing to actually accelerate and the advocacy of Islamic finance and Islamic fintech. Right. So I would just give an overview about what fintech is. We all know what fintech is: financial technology, and it's actually leveraging technology to ease the delivery of financial services to those that actually require them. And when you're not bringing Islamic into it, that means that you're trying to marry it with ethical finance. You are trying to marry it with Sharia compliance, right? How do you deliver this financial product or service, leveraging technology and also aligning with the Sharia principles, with the ethics of non-interest finance? So basically, Islamic fintech is actually the composition of the ethical finance and the fintech solutions to actually provide the appropriate and affordable financial product and services to those that require them. And if you look at it today, we are doing that at HalalVest. Basically, we're an Islamic fintech trying to democratize access to financial products and services, particularly trying to reduce the gap between the conventional financial system and the non-interest financial system. And it's still emerging in our ecosystem in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. So Islamic fintech is actually, another interesting, segment that you can use to accelerate financial inclusion. Right. And I believe we still have that gap, and if you look at some of the existing financial service providers that play within the non-interest space. If you look at the banking sector, we have 4 full-fledged non-interest banks, then 1 window, right? And we also have the insurance sector, that's the Takaful tech sector. Out of all the conventional insurance companies, there are only few that are also non-interest, that are licensed with the NICOM. So looking at also the SEC, right, the Security and Exchange Commission, those asset management companies, you look at only few that are also, leveraging the non-interest finance. So look at it, how are they exploring, fintech solutions to deliver their products? Aside from that, what is the kind of opportunities that goes beyond that, that makes it easy for people to actually see value in non-interest finance, in Islamic finance? So Islamic fintech is one of the key, enabler to accelerate financial inclusion.
Right. Thank you so much for that. Islamic fintech basically is, like you said, marrying fintech with Sharia compliance. So thank you for that. So I was wondering, right, Islamic finance in general is just evolving in this part of the world. So what's business like for Islamic fintech operators, especially in Nigeria? I mean, what would you say how would you say the country is making this system conducive for you?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's interesting because if you look at the opportunities in the Nigerian ecosystem, there's still big opportunities for Islamic finance and Islamic fintech, right? Like I mentioned, from some of the gaps that we have highlighted within the financial ecosystem we have, you have only few players, within the non-interest space, right? And thank God, even the some of the policies that we have that have been put in place by the different regulators of the financial institutions in their segment, in banking, in insurance, in investment, even if we are yet to see something tangible from the pension, right? So if you look at it, I think the regulators are still trying to see how they can make it easy for the operators to scale. But there's still a lot of work for the operators to do. There's a lot of gap, and I can give you a practical, example. If you look at the recent, CBN regulation that was released for recapitalizing the commercial banks, right? If you look at it, you see that the non-interest, licensing requirement in terms of the capital requirement is the list, like 10 billion and 20 billion for both regional and national, respectively. So if you look at it, there's still a lot of opportunities they are trying to create for us, for those players within to come into the ecosystem to see how they can leverage and demonstrate the capacity of Islamic finance and Islamic fintech solutions. Aside from that, you also look at the existing operators. How are they delivering the service? They still need to be a lot of sensitization, right? So the regulators have tried in one bit. The operators need to also come up with strategies, right, to see how they can educate people about the principles that guide non-interest finance. It's not about sentiment of religious bias or maybe ethnicity and the like. So it's about the value and the benefits. Fine, we know the principles is coming from the Islamic Sharia principles, right? So, but if you look at it very well, there are a lot of opportunities. People need to understand the benefits aside from the conventional financial system. And I can give you a case study from what we are doing at HalalVest currently in Kaduna State, right? So we are a digital non-interest cooperative network, right? So what we do is we aggregate, agents, thrift collectors, and savings groups, right? These people save regularly, and most times it is being done manually. So we've embedded that automation, like, okay, come on board on our platform. We can digitize the process for you. Aside from giving you the value of, we can also give you access to credit in a non-interest way. And people will say, are you a charity organization? It's not about that. It's about the benefit. We share the risk with you, and we also give you profit. So we've also looked at that strategy using our cooperative network to bring them, leverage our brand. For instance, those thrift collectors, the savings groups, or even financial services agents. They can actually onboard, members and agent network, to this platform to make it as easy for them to access, the benefits of the non-interest finance. Aside from that, we've also collaborated with several non-interest financial institutions. Like I said, HalalVest is just a cooperative network as we speak. So we collaborate with non-interest financial institutions. We do a lot of sensitization. We do, workshop to accelerate that inclusion for people at the last mile. And that's what we did a seminar recently where we were able to gather different savings groups. We work with banks like Lotus Bank, for instance, they keep, partner with us, and other banks. We work with Ila Takafu, right? So we're able to give, them the value that it can be embedded. Even while you are saving, you have access to, credit, and you have access to, Takafu, that's the non-interest insurance. and they're able to see a lot of value in it. So operators, particularly within the Islamic finance space and Islamic fintech in Nigeria, need to look at how to explore the environment that we have today. Not because we have a lot of people that are Muslims in the north, right? It can actually thrive anywhere. It's about the benefit that needs to be showcased. And there needs to be a lot of sensitization. We call it Islamic financial literacy, right? Where you educate people, they ask questions. We even look at, exploring different network channels, distribution channels, where they can also go to, mosques, they can go to different markets, to sensitize people about the benefit of Islamic finance. So we are still at the early stage. So operators need to develop, financial literacy content that will educate people about the benefits of non-interest finance. You can even localize it in their language, right? And this is where the opportunity lies, because people want to see the value they can get from, subscribing to any non-interest financial products. But with the support that we still have and the collaboration we have with all the strategic partners, I believe we can make it happen. Inshallah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. People needed to understand what it's like for Islamic fintech operators in Nigeria. So, but then moving forward, what would you say is the adoption ratio of Islamic fintech, in northern Nigeria? Like you've earlier mentioned, you're currently in Kaduna and you're doing, putting a good work there. So what would you say is the adoption ratio in the northern Nigeria currently?
Yeah, so I think we'll look at the non-interest financial institutions that are here. I think we have more of them here in the northern Nigeria than we have in the southern Nigeria, right? We have Taj Bank, they have many branches here. We have Jais Bank, they have many branches here. These are the leading non-interest financial institutions that we have, and we even have Lotus Bank. They've also emerged here, and we're also working with all of them. So the adoption rate is quite, interesting, but we're not still there yet, right? There's an opportunity for, I would say, because of the kind of people we have here, majority are believed to be Muslims, right? So they understand they don't want to transact in interest. They have that mindset that I want to transact within the non-interest financial ecosystem. But there's still that huge gap as we speak, right? When we gather people, we go for sensitization, we still ask, how many people have non-interest, bank accounts? How many people have non-interest, insurance, subscribe to our halal investment product? That gap is still there compared to those that subscribe to the conventional, financial products. So what we are doing and what we are saying is that we need to accelerate the Islamic financial literacy, right? Localize it in their language to see how we can, get there. And we can also imbibe, leveraging fintech solutions that are simple to use, and also leveraging agent network, right? That's what we do at HalalVest. So we are leveraging our fintech solution, and we're also building a responsive, smart agent network to work with these grassroots people, to educate them, to onboard them, and to make it easier for them to access these non-interest financial products. So with HalalVest, it's like a one-stop shop to access any non-interest financial products in terms of banking services, in terms of food as insurance, in terms of investment, in terms of even the agency banking. You want to also access credit. You want to open a bank account with a non-interest bank, right? You are able to access it. So with that, I think the adoption ratio can increase.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much for that. Ben, let's move to a call to action. How do we create, or how do people, operators, and people in the Islamic fintech or Islamic finance ecosystem create more awareness of Islamic fintech operations and offerings, especially in the northern part of Nigeria? How do you think we can expand awareness?
There need to be need for collaboration, right? We can't do it alone. The collaboration between the government, between the operators, between stakeholders, the communities, the household, and everybody that actually can drive and accelerate this advocacy. There need to be a lot of collaboration. That's what we are doing at HalalVest. So we've developed a framework to work with all the non-interest financial institutions. or non-interest financial service providers. So we work with them, and we also have relationship with, financial literacy companies, so that we can also develop, co-create content to accelerate Islamic financial literacy, to educate people, let them know the opportunities that lies within the, non-interest finance, right? And we can take it. You can imagine, we did a sensitization program one time, and we had someone coming from a church that said he wants to become an agent and wants to drive Islamic financial product in the church. I was quite, very shocked. And some of my colleagues were saying, you just have to allow him. It's about the benefit he wants to pitch, and they'll get it, right? So it's an opportunity we need to portray. We don't need to, let people know that Islamic finance is only for the Muslims. And I used to say one thing is that if we, for instance, we the Muslims, we fail to take opportunities and advantage of Islamic financial, products.
Yeah.
We have a lot of non-Muslims that are willing to follow the principles and scale it. We have, just like we are seeing in some other countries. So this is one thing that needs to be done. We need to create that, sensitization, educate people to drive this advocacy, which will in turn, increase the adoption of Islamic financial products, leveraging Islamic Fintechs, right? So this is what we are doing basically at HalalVest. And we already have some partnerships that we're collaborating with, different agencies, different associations to help them, drive this, onboarding, so that they can have access. We can also create empowerment so that some of their agents and the earn commission, right, from providing these services to their members or to their customers, right? So we are leveraging both agent network and also the fintech solution we have at HalalVest to drive this inclusion.
Sure. To expand on your point, saying there are non-Muslims willing to adopt this system. I mean, I have had conversations with operators of Islamic finance, and they say most of the people that embrace or are open to adopt Islamic finance, they come from the non-Muslim populace. So there is no longer that sentiment that Islamic finance or Islamic fintech is majorly for the Muslims. I mean, it's for everyone, because at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation for everyone. Okay, thank you for that. So now let's talk about Islamic fintech and how it's going to help balance financial inclusion gaps with digital transformation, especially for SMEs and unbanked population. How can Islamic fintech bridge that gap?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's clear. Recently, the Office of the Vice President, particularly the technical advisor to the President on Financial Inclusion and their team, they came up with a workshop, I think a few weeks ago. I was privileged to be there. And they were discussing about, with the recent approval by the President to drive the consumer credit scheme, right? So how can actually we leverage this, to include a lot of people within the non-interest space? Because if you look at some of the past, social intervention schemes, for instance, coming from even the government, right? You have to see how they can embed, and it can also include the non-interest, financial ecosystem. Right. So this is very, very important. So if you look at it, people want to access credit and they don't want to access it with interest. So how can we also develop that framework? So leveraging this, fintech solutions, it can actually accelerate financial inclusion. And I can give you an example of what we do at HalalVest, which is what can be embedded even into the consumer credit scheme, aside from the different products within the non-interest space that can be explored, right, to actually deliver this credit. So at HalalVest, we have a cooperative network. So what we do is that we have different products. You have access to, become a member. And when you save for, at least for 6 months, you have access to double of what you have saved with no interest, right? And aside from that, you also have opportunities to access credit, SME, financing, and several other financing like assets and the likes from a non-interest financial institution. So we are also able to, prepare them, ensure they meet the requirements to access this product, right? So Islamic fintech can actually be used to deliver access to, financial inclusion products, leveraging this strategy of working with both the government and the private stakeholders, aside from the social intervention schemes, right? Even private-led, they can embed it, and people need to see it like, okay, this is not this is not actually interest, right? It is profit. It is profit sharing. We share the risk and we share the profit, right? And there's no negligence for the loss if the negligence is from your side. So these are areas where, we need to let people know how to access this SME financing, leveraging non-interest, schemes. And this is what we do basically at HalalVest on how to democratize access. So we're working with non-interest banks to see how we could work with, a lot of people, our members, to see how they can access this financing and credit, whether in form of overdraft that also comply within the Sharia principles. And they have a lot, like look at the typical thrift daily contribution. They save regularly and they can access credit. So they save regularly because they can't leave their shops. So you have an agent that goes to meet them to collect it. And those that are also, convenient in sending it, to their account, they are well disciplined. So how do they use that savings history to access credit, right? Without consuming an interest, right? So what we do basically at HalalVest is we collaborate with non-interest financial institutions to see how we could co-create products for SME financing for the unbanked population, right? And it can actually drive financial inclusion for everyone. So what we look at is both government, both private-led, both international development-led, intervention schemes need to see how they can develop in their framework non-interest, finance. If they have a credit that, is for everybody, how do we also include, the non-interest financial ecosystem? So this is very, very important so that we won't actually marginalize the people within the non-interest rate that don't want to transact with interest. 0.00001 is not allowed. So no matter how little it is, even if it's 0 digit, they will not come for it. So we need to embed a framework that will make it easy for people to have, different, flexibility to access credit within in line with the Sharia compliance, principles.
So thank you so much, Abdulazeez, for that wonderful and insightful session. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Thanks for all the wonderful sensitization and advocacy I've been doing. We believe we're going to collectively accelerate Islamic financial inclusion.
Yeah, thank you. I haven't had that extensive conversation with Abdulazeez. I mean, I hope you're now well convinced that Islamic finance or Islamic fintech is not just open to the Muslim populace, but to each and every one of you. I mean, it's interesting to know that even the non-Muslim members are fast adopting the system. Well, with that, I say don't forget to keep it to date with us next week on the program. Follow us on all our social media platforms displayed on the screen. Thank you for watching. I am Rahma Say Muhammad.